Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So today I'm going to be combining my Roscoe's and my Scorpio's recaps into one video. The Scorpio's is for season 18 episode 4 and the Roscoe's is for season 18 episode 5. So today we're going to be talking about why Ciara Mist and Kenya Pleaser told production to stop filming. Kenya reveals an unaired comment from RuPaul, which is why she was angry about being in the bottom. And the queens expose why Athena Dion kept interrupting a producer off camera. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. And if you like these videos, please make sure you hit subscribe to support the channel because it does make a big difference. Thank you! Okay, so we're going to start with the Scorpio's recap, which was for season 18, episode 4, because the episode 5 one has not come out yet. And the guests that week were Ciara Mist, LaLa Ri, and Kenya Pleaser. And I'll link to Scorpio's channel in the description, and you should also definitely go and check out their full videos as well. So they started out with the host, Erica Chanel, asking Ciara how many times she had auditioned for Drag Race. Ciara said this was her second time auditioning, and she had previously auditioned for season 16 as a way to test it out. And although she thinks her season 16 tape was okay, she said the tape for season 18 felt the most like her, almost like a mini documentary, and that's why they tell the queens all the time is just to be yourself. Erica asked LaLa the same thing, and LaLa explained that the day she got the initial call to say that they were interested in her being on season 13, that was the day that the country shut down because of COVID. So LaLa assumed that nothing was going to happen because of the lockdown, but a few months later, they called her again to say that she had been cast on the show. LaLa assumed that they would not be filming for another 2 years, but they said no, you have to come in around 2 weeks. But the thing was, all the fabric shops were shut, so LaLa didn't know what to do, but then LaLa said that she was in Atlanta and actually everything was open in Atlanta, so she was okay. LaLa said that she got on the show the first time she auditioned, but she auditioned as kind of a joke, and in fact, even in her audition tape she said, quote, "I'm never auditioning for this show ever again," so they must have decided they wanted her there and then. There was then an online question for the queens, which was, which queen did you think was going to go home first on your season? Ciara said she has to be honest that when Mandy Mango walked into the workroom and she saw her entrance look and her makeup, Ciara thought, quote, "Are we going to the cosplay convention?" She also joked that Mandy might be afraid of cosmetics and, quote, "Why is the lash too big? Why is there no makeup?" But then when you speak to her, Mandy is so sweet and she said she loves Mandy. Another question was, who from your season takes the longest to get ready? LaLa Ri said on season 13 it was Kimora Hall, and on All Stars 8 it was Jimbo. LaLa explained that Jimbo would legitimately wait until production said it was time to go to the main stage, and then only then would she start doing her makeup, because every day Jimbo would sit there for 3 hours and tell you a different one of her life stories, even if the queens didn't want to listen to it because they were trying to get ready. But she wouldn't start her makeup until it was time to go, and the other queens would just have to sit and wait for Jimbo to finish. The others asked if they really held the runway for Jimbo, and LaLa said yes, and Kenya said that it was a, quote, setup, and questioned why they would hold the runway for Jimbo but not for the others. Erica asked if they held the runway for the queens on season 18, and both Kenya and Ciara said hell no, but maybe it's different on All Stars. Erica then asked who on season 18 took the longest to get ready, and both Ciara and Kenya at the same time said Mia Star. Ciara explained that they get given around 2 hours to get ready for the runway from start to finish, which might sound like a good amount of time, but you still have to film the mirror conversations or walk around and talk to the other queens in that time too. One of the other hosts asked if you can start makeup a bit earlier, but Kenya said absolutely not. They want you to walk in with a completely bare face. But Kenya revealed that Mia would actually glue down her hairline and her eyebrows in the trailer beforehand, and then she would wear a low hat and hope that production didn't notice. And in this week's episode, you can see that Mia's eyebrows are clearly glued down already when she walks into the workroom first of all. Also, just to pick up on something Kenya said, she said that Mia glues down her wig in the trailer. For anyone who's watched my previous Scorpios recap from last week, which I'll link to in the description, you may remember that the guest that week, Discord Adams, sort of revealed that the queens stay in trailers rather than a hotel. But it wasn't clear from what she said if this was just for the finale or not, because the other guest last week, Hormona Lisa, said that they stayed in a trailer on her season, but only when they came back to film the finale, but for the main part of the season they were in a hotel. However, from what Kenya said this week, it sounds like the queens were in trailers for the entirety of season 18, although this is just an educated guess, but I thought this was potentially interesting. Back to Scorpios, and they talked about the main challenge for episode 4, which was the red carpet mashup design challenge. Kenya spilled some tea about production and said she's not sure if she's supposed to reveal this, but on reality TV shows and competitions, they have to read you the rules to make sure it's legal and fair. The person who was reading out the rules was one of the top producers called Mandy, who some of you may be familiar with because the queens have talked about her many times over the years at places like Roscoe's, and they haven't always been very complimentary towards her. However, Kenya said Mandy was reading out the rules for that challenge, and usually it only takes about 90 seconds or so to read it out. But apparently, Athena Dion kept interrupting Mandy on at least 7 different occasions because Athena kept asking if it was a mashup or not, because she was presumably confused about what the challenge was. Ciara said it turned into about 10 minutes of Athena just repeatedly interrupting Mandy, asking if it was a mashup. But usually this rule reading is just very quick and they have to film it to prove that they did it, but they just don't show that footage in the episode. And so the other queens started getting annoyed at Athena because this was eating into their time for the challenge, and Kenya joked that she said, quote, "Athena, I'm going to need you to shut the F up." Kenya also said they only get 1 day, which is about 8 hours, to work on their looks, and that's it. So they couldn't waste time with Athena, who kept asking questions. They talked about the moment earlier in that episode when the queens were on the couch and Mia and Briar had a bit of an argument. Kenya said that that fight was, quote, a little bit stronger than what was shown and was much longer in real life. According to Kenya, it was more than just a fight, it was a, quote, B word telling another B word about herself, like, little girl, I'm about to sit you the F down and I'm going to tell you what the mother effing T was. And what really gagged Kenya was when Mia said to Briar that she only wanted to apologise now because the cameras are on. Ciara explained that she was there when Mia and Briar had their initial awkward conversation in the workroom, which was shown in the unseen footage section. And that was when Mia asked if Briar was single. Briar said she had been in a happy relationship for a few years, but then it didn't end well. And Mia joked that it was probably Briar's fault, but Briar clearly did not like that and just ignored Mia, and she'd clearly hit a sore nerve. And Briar later said that she felt really uncomfortable and didn't want to have that conversation on camera. Mia said she did apologise right after, but Briar didn't accept it. But back to Scorpios, and Ciara explained that after that initial awkward moment happened, Mia walked away and Ciara spilled what happened. Ciara then said she looked into the camera and said, quote, "This is not supposed to be on camera. Briar asked for it not to be on camera, but I have to correct the situation." Cut to, it then does become on camera because, quote, neither of them were adult about it, but Ciara joked that at least there was finally some drama on their season. Kenya said she was gagged because she thought it was just going to be some friendly drama, but it was actually a real fight, and Mia was rocking back and forward, and her head was bobbing, and she was reaching for her earrings. So Kenya said she looked at the producer during this and said, quote, "Y'all might want to tell somebody now it's time to get out of drag, because if Mia touches this little girl right now..." Ciara added that they, quote, took the fight off course, and it was like, also your mum sucks D, etc. Kenya then said they, quote, made it look cute for TV, and the problem was it was about real life stuff, not about stuff in the competition, which is why it got so intense. They then talked about the moment later in the episode when Briar fainted on the main stage. Ciara said Briar was clearly feeling lightheaded during the critiques, which is why Law Roach said don't make that face, but it was because Briar was about to pass out. Apparently, after Briar passed out, Ciara said no shade to the medic, but it genuinely took forever for the medic to get there, and Rue and Michelle were yelling, quote, get the effing medic here, and it was so scary. Kenya added that RuPaul at one point said, quote, can we get a brown paper bag? And Kenya joked, quote, is this 1927? This bee needs some oxygen. And the audience laughed. They watched the rest of the critiques for that episode, and Kenya was clearly not very impressed with the critiques and said, quote, they played in my goddamn face. Kenya said she loves Athena, but her hem was wrinkly, whereas Kenya boned her bodice and made a neck scarf. Kenya also revealed that they, quote, kept the edit cute, but they read me the F down. Apparently, what they didn't show in the episode was when RuPaul said to Athena and Darlene Mitchell, quote, well, neither of them wore it best, so I guess Athena. So Kenya asked why was she in the bottom instead of them, and the audience gasped and laughed because Kenya was getting so heated and spilling tea. Kenya then said she was a little drunk and said, quote, World of Wonder is watching, I love y'all. They moved on, and Ciara talked about the fabric her pair had been given for the challenge, which was supposed to be denim, but it wasn't actually denim, it was just blue fabric. So Ciara had to take the fabric outside and spray paint it to make it look more like denim, otherwise it would have just been flat and one colour. But on top of that, Ciara had asked production for some bleach so she could acid wash it to make it look more interesting. But apparently production told Ciara, quote, no, we cannot give you bleach because we're worried you'll poison the other girls. Erica asked Ciara if production really said that, and Kenya backed Ciara up and said yes, production really did say that. They moved on, and Erica asked them about the food situation on set, because Discord had said last week that the queens can ask production for whatever they want and they'll get it for them. This then reminded Ciara of a funny story, which was that it was actually Briar Blush's birthday during filming, so the queens had said they wanted a cake for Briar's birthday, and so production went out and bought 3 different cakes. However, Briar then got eliminated that week and left before they had the cake, but the queens still wanted the cake, so they literally ate all 3 of Briar's birthday cakes, even though she was no longer there. Jane Don't has also told this story recently in a TikTok video where she said it was kind of brutal because not only did Briar faint, but she got eliminated on a Friday and her birthday was literally the next day. And according to Jane, the queens made production still give them the cake.
So she gets eliminated and we're like, okay, cool. But then Saturday rolls around and we were like, so are we getting cake or what? And the handlers are like, what do you mean are you getting cake? And we're like, it's Briar's birthday. And they were like, yeah, but Briar's not here. And we were like, yeah, but we still talked about us getting cake. So where's the cake? So the handlers went to the store and bought us 3 different kinds of cake. And then while we were eating them, we sang happy birthday to Briar. And we all kept being like, yeah, to Briar, happy birthday, Briar. We were being such assholes. Truly, we were being assholes. And we told her the story. She knows about it, but
And finally, for the Scorpio section, Erica mentioned that back in November 2024, LaLa had announced on social media and in various interviews that she was quitting drag. And I did do a video about this in more detail where I went through not just LaLa but also other queens who have quit drag since the show and why they quit, and I'll link to that video in the description. But Erica said that LaLa is now back doing drag, so was it a hard switch, and how does she feel about it now? LaLa said it wasn't a hard switch, it was more just that she needed a break, because after season 13 she was working constantly, and she was probably one of the most booked queens from her season. So she was just really, quote, burned out, and she was losing her passion and felt like she wasn't growing as an artist, and she hates feeling complacent. So she just needed to take a step back to evaluate who she is as an artist, and she's happy to be back, and everyone clapped and cheered for LaLa. Okay, so now moving on to the Roscoe's recap. This viewing party was for season 18, episode 5, and the guests that week were Tammie Brown and Nicole Page Brooks. As you can probably imagine, this was a highly entertaining but also very chaotic viewing party, and they kept going off on funny tangents, but they didn't really talk about the episode that much, so there are only a few things to say for this viewing party. But as usual, I will be posting the stuff that I cut out on my Patreon, so go and check that out if you would like to know the tea that I didn't include in this video. And make sure that you do go and watch the full video on Roscoe's channel because it was very funny, which as always will be linked in the description. Okay, so they watched the judges' critiques for episode 5, and Naysha asked them all what they thought. Nicole said, quote, "I think something is happening with Ru's hair. Can we all just say that? Who's doing her hair?" Tammie said it used to be Matthew Anderson until he left. And I have talked about this before on my channel, but just quickly for those of you who may not know, Matthew Anderson was RuPaul's makeup and hairstylist up until season 9. But the rumours are that Ru and Matthew had a big argument and Matthew left the set during episode 1 of season 9 and did not come back. So someone else had to do Ru's hair and makeup that episode, which is apparently why Ru looked so different. Then Raven and Delta Work were brought in to do Ru's makeup and hair respectively. But Delta no longer worked there after season 11 because she had declined to work on RuPaul's Netflix show AJ and the Queen because they apparently expected Delta to do not just the hair for Ru but also for the extras, which was not agreed beforehand, which is why Delta said no. But then when Delta texted Ru to ask what was coming up next, Ru just said that she was going to be working with someone else from now on. And so Delta felt that this was wrong of Ru to drop her after all she had done for her, and she, quote, questions the ethics of someone like that. There was also an issue where Delta said that her name was not put forward for an Emmy nomination, even though she did all the work, and World of Wonder claimed it was because she was no longer working there, but Delta said that that's not true. Delta did go into more detail about this drama during an interview with Joseph Shepherd, which I'll link to in the description if you want to hear the full story. Anyway, going back to Roscoe's, Nicole said there was something going on with Ru's hair and asked who was doing it. Naysha said she'll have to double check, but she thinks that Raven is now doing both RuPaul's makeup as well as her hair. Nicole then said, quote, "I'll say what I said to her, stick to what you know, Raven," and everyone in the audience gasped and laughed. They moved on and went off on another tangent, and Nicole said that she met her husband on OkCupid. Tammie said that Nicole's husband works for Delta Airlines, and so does Tammie's season 1 co-star Rebecca Glasscock. Tammie then said, quote, "She was a psychotic B-word," and everyone in the audience gasped and laughed. Naysha asked if Tammie had a problem with Rebecca, and Tammie said, quote, "I never had a problem with her, she had a problem with us, she's just something else." Tammie then presumably imitated Rebecca and said, quote, "Oh well, just separate yourself from my calendar. Oh please, there wasn't enough room for a fly." Naysha then said so from what she's heard, Rebecca could not share space with her, and Tammie said, quote, "Oh, she couldn't share space with a rat." Naysha then said that Rebecca quit drag, Tammie said yes and that she works for Delta Airlines now, and in fact, Tammie once saw Rebecca working at the counter at the airport and she, quote, "walked by and I pretended I didn't know them," and people laughed. Later, they asked Tammie to recreate her iconic moment from All Stars 1.
Oh, well, come on, Teletubby! Teleport us to Mars!
Tammie said that she was annoyed because at DragCon one year, they had the Teletubbies there, and they asked Jujubee to go on stage with them, but Tammie and Manila Luzon were not invited. Tammie then said, quote, and the other one. Someone said Mimi Imfurst, and Tammie said, quote, no, not Mimi, she's pathetic, and everyone gasped and laughed. Tammie went on to say Mimi probably has problems, and someone in the audience shouted something out. It was hard to hear, but it sounded like they said that Mimi is a joke, but Naysha told them to stop and to be nice. And Tammie said back to the person in the audience, quote, you said it, I didn't. And finally, Caramel asked if Nicole was proud when Mistress Isabel Brooks, but before Caramel could finish the question, Nicole said, quote, I'm not related to her, and everyone laughed. Nicole went on to say that she saw clips of when Mistress and Willam were at Roscoe's together a few weeks ago after their feud, and Nicole said that they were, quote, acting like trolls on the internet. Nicole went on to say, quote, say what you said, they were acting like some punks up here, you paid extra to get front row seats, and they didn't even spit on each other. B-word, I need you to spit on me, or at least knock my drink over, say some shady bleep. She said that she told them to their faces that they acted like punks and trolls, and everyone in the audience laughed. So there you go, there was the Scorpios recap for Season 18 Episode 4 and the Roscoe's recap for Season 18 Episode 5. Let me know what your favourite part of this recap was, and let me know in the comments if you want me to keep doing these Scorpios recaps as well as the Roscoe's recaps. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my latest Patreon member, Oxymoron, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Oxymoron, you are a winner baby. If you'd like to watch my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as see the things that I cut out of my Roscoe's recaps, as well as other exclusive content, please check out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really does help support the channel, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreon members. I really do pinch myself all the time thinking about how lucky I am to have all of you supporting me, and it really does make a huge difference to the channel, so thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please make sure you subscribe. It's free, it only takes 2 seconds, and it really does make a big difference to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.